What is up? It's CJ here. I hope you all are doing well. Welcome back to the channel. We are here to discuss quite a few things today. Today may be a bit of a ramble, but I want to talk about why kids need to fail, culture and parenting, and my thoughts on the All-Star game and All-Star weekend. This is going to be an interesting one, I think. That's going to be an interesting topic. What did you think about the All-Star game? Matter of fact, before we get started, I want you to leave a comment below about how you felt about the All-Star game this weekend and just the All-Star weekend. Let's get it. Okay, so I want to talk about the importance of failing. And I think we've gotten into a state of us trying to protect our kids from failure. And not just protect our kids from failure, like protecting our kids from failure the wrong way. I want to talk about this pretty much throughout the episode, but it's important for children to fail, and it's important to raise them in an environment with standards, and it's important to set a proper expectation so that it does not lead to disappointment. And this is a common theme in my life right now, so I think this is appropriate to talk about. But we have to allow our kids to fail. And what do I mean by protecting your children the wrong way? To me, there's a right way to protect your child, and there's a wrong way to protect your child. We over here at the Davidson household, we protect our children by preparing them for the situations that we believe that they may encounter. In particular, right now, we're talking about sports, but this applies to everything that we do in our household.
We are raising mentally weak children because we overdo for them. One of the concepts in the book I really love is if you do too much for your children, you are increasing your self-esteem by stealing theirs. That we develop mental toughness by solving problems. So if my daughter would forget her homework at home, nobody's bringing it to school. If she didn't bring a jacket on a cold day, even though her mother told her to, nobody's bringing her the jacket. It's so important to, when a child says, I'm bored, rather than you fix it, just say, I wonder what you're going to do about it. And then shut up. Let them begin to figure out their problems or the solutions to their problems rather than being overly involved with them.
Chance plays the piano and he plays the tuba. And this same expectation and same process is for him as well. We prepare him for what he will encounter. If you are expected to perform at a performance at your piano recital, we will practice and we will work hard and we will put the time in every day so that when you have to be in that situation, you are prepared for it. And you should be confident in the fact that you've prepared. Protecting your kid the wrong way is not preparing your kid for the situation, not having the standard, not setting the expectation, not putting in the work, and then coming to a situation and expecting to be handed what others may deserve. And we're doing this at a very early age where we're expecting for people to give our child things that we've just paid for. You paid for it, but just because you paid to do something doesn't mean you meet the expectations to do them. And I think this is important because what happens is people pay their money and they expect to have certain things because they paid their money. And then that ultimately leads to them being disappointed and dissatisfied with the environment and the treatment. And there's a couple of caveats there. There's a couple of things that I would like to say as far as like how we can rid youth sports and just culture of this. But we've gotten to the point where we're not allowing our children to fail. I allow my son to miss the bus. Like I said, it's not just about sports. It's about everything. I allow Chance, Jaden, their responsibility is to wake up in the morning, wake themselves up, get themselves ready, get themselves on the bus, and go to school. That is not my responsibility. That is theirs. And the sooner you give your child those responsibilities, the more prepared they will be for the real world. In the real world, nobody is going to wake them up. In the real world, if they don't set their alarm, they're going to be late. In the real world, if they don't get their clothes on with enough time and understand that they need to be ready on time, they will be late and they will not be successful. Doing that or holding on to that responsibility, taking on that responsibility for them is protecting them in the wrong way. It's the wrong way because eventually they will have to do this on their own, right? So how do you prepare them for that? You allow them to fail. You allow them to fail. Chance, if he does not get up and make the bus on time, I am not taking him to school. Even I'm sitting right up in here. You don't make that bus up, you missed school today. You do that too many times, I don't think they're going to let you go on to the next grade. All your friends are going to be moving on. You won't be. I'm sorry. It's not my responsibility anymore. And I have to give you that responsibility in order for you to learn from it. You also have to fail in order for you to learn from it. Jaden goes to practice one day without his swim trunks. Dad, I don't have my swim trunks. Dad, I left my shoes at home. As parents, if we're jumping to save our children every time they get into a situation, every time they get into a problem, they're not going to learn from it. Don't leave your shoes at home. Don't do it. If I come and bring you the shoes, then you're going to think, hey, like if I leave my shoes, it's not that important. My mom's going to bring it anyway, right? My mom's going to bring it. Whatever. I left my swim trunks for swim practice. My mom's going to bring it. No, I just dropped you off at swim practice and now I'm home and you're telling me you don't have swim trunks. I'm sorry, son, you're going to sit there for 2 hours not practicing. Let that soak in so that the next time you don't forget your swim trunks. I'll be back to pick you up when practice is over. Like, that is your responsibility to do that. And that means that there will be times that you will fail at it. But through you failing at it, you will learn and you will understand and you will grow. But if I don't allow you to fail at it, I am protecting you in the wrong way. So kids need to fail early. It's important. It's an important part of life. It is essential to growth. And I see this a lot in kids sports and in youth sports where parents just don't want to see their kids fail. And it's important for them to fail. It's important for them to fail. It's important for them to cry. It's important for them to be upset. It's important for them to show those emotions so that they either get with it or they get lost, get gone. Get with it or get gone. Either this is for you or it is not for you. And you have to determine in yourself whether this is something you want to do. Son, how bad do you want to get to school? I can't make you want to go to school. You got to do that for you. I can't make you do the little things that you need to do. You have to do that for you because you want to do those things. You want more responsibility? You got to show me you can handle the responsibilities you got. And this goes for youth sports as well, too. This is not just about sports. This is about, these are life lessons, right? And so the problem is with participation trophies and, shielding kids from adversity, not having things like tryouts, not having things like being honest with parents. I am honest with parents. If parents want to have the conversation, we can have that conversation about your child. We could talk about it. Why isn't my son playing? We could talk about it. Come on, let's talk about it. I have a list of reasons why he's not playing. I have a list of reasons why. And I don't operate on I play the players who give me the most effort, who work the hardest. And those players who work the hardest and give me the best effort and are improving themselves and getting better and putting the work in, those players see the floor. They see the floor. I don't care who you are. My own son, you can sit your butt down too. You ain't been putting the work in. Sit down. And so I'm not biased when it comes to this. My own children and the parents who of my teams, they see it in practice. They'll see. I'll call out my own son. Don't think it's just for the other kids. He honestly gets it worse because I just want to make sure that y'all understand that there's no favoritism being played here. If he can't do the job and there's somebody else that can do the job, come on, take his job. And look, so I think it's important to have that because if you really want the job, if you really want to do the thing, then you will do the thing. But until someone sets the standard and expectation of what it is that you need to do, you're gonna get away with whatever you can get away with. Kids are notorious for that. They will get away with whatever they will get away with, and they know and they can sense who they can get away with it with. They can sense that. They know that, and so I think we need to bring back real standards. And these real standards, I feel like, will help kids in the long run. And if we don't have these standards, if we're not having the real conversation, and let me tell you one example of what happens in youth sports. One of the things that happens in youth sports is, especially in AAU, people pay their money expecting for their kid to play on a team. The coach does not express to the parents or the kid where they stand on the team. Mind you, there's no tryouts. So the kid is just on the team. Oh yeah, you got the money? Okay, yeah, he can get a jersey, he can be on the team. Okay, but there's no conversation had there with the parents or the kids as to where their kid stands. And so what happens is the parents have an expectation that, because I paid, I get to play. And effective communication can solve this very easily. Effectively communicating to a parent that their child is not at the level that he needs to be to play this game. Not this one, not AAU. So if you're willing to sit on the bench, if you're willing to hang around and learn, I think your son will be fine. But if you're not willing to do that, I need to give you your money back. That's the type of communication that needs to happen before a kid goes on to a team. What's happening is that this communication is happening after the kid is on the team, after a parent has paid their money, after a parent has shown up and came to the practices and spent their time, and they're expecting something that is not happening in reality, and that leads to disappointment. And so there needs to be a standard. What is the standard? Who are we allowing on our teams? Is the standard just who can pay money? The person who can pay the most money isn't the best player. So then if the standard is money, then you should play everybody. But if the standard is not just money, but can the kid actually play? Now we have an actual standard that allows parents and players to understand that, hey, there's a standard to what it takes to be on the floor. And if you want to have that conversation with me, we can have it. The other problem is that I will say these things to my parents, to the players, to people involved, and I coach multiple teams. And even though I say those things, parents are not willing to come to me and have that conversation. And I'll tell them, hey, like if anyone wants to discuss their child and where they stand, and I'm always open and willing to have that conversation. The reason why you don't want to have that conversation is because you and I know how that conversation is going to go. You know whether you have been holding your child to a high standard. You know whether you have been building a culture at your home of we're going to work out, we're going to prepare, we're going to get our kids ready to play the game of basketball. And we're going to work on that and be dedicated to that and do that every day. You know how that conversation is going to go because you haven't been doing it. Because if you were doing it, the child would be improving. If you were doing it, the child would be showing us that he's been putting the work in. He'll be confident in that. And the truth is that they haven't. And so if you want to have that conversation, we can have it. We can talk about it. If you don't want to have that conversation, it's most likely because you know that you haven't been doing the work, that you haven't been putting in extra time. He hasn't been dribbling the ball every day, shooting the ball every day, like some of the other players have been. But you want what they have, but you haven't done what they've done. And to me, that's unfair. Not only that is, I think it's also unfair, for coaches to play the other role where it's like, hey, I'm going to take your money, but then I'm not going to tell you what my intentions are for your child. If your child is on any team, and I said this before, if your child is on any team, you should have a conversation with the coach and understand what his intentions are for the team, for your child, and what he plans to do to try to get your child to be better. And so I just recently had a conversation with a friend about I call kids out in practice. And yeah, they're 9U. I get it. They're 9U. I'm not asking them to do anything, incredible, right? We're talking about simple things that I'm asking them to do that I know that they're capable of doing. And if they stay focused and then if they're willing to put in the work and they're willing to go the extra mile, they can do them. But there has to be a standard and an expectation set. And I'll call you out if you're not meeting that standard or expectation. My expectation, my standard is we do not miss layups. If you have a wide open layup, you should not be missing them. That is the standard. You guys have been playing, some of these kids have been playing basketball for 3 years now. I've seen you make a layup. If you focus and you're intentional, you can make that layup. What's so interesting is that when you're coaching kids and you just make them just do layups, and there's no expectation set, they'll miss half of them. You know why? Because they're not focused. They're not being intentional about what they're doing. As soon as I start counting, hey, I'm 5 missed layups and we're getting on the line. We're running five suicides, five jackets, right? As soon as I say that, they start making layups. As soon as they run a couple of times, they start focusing. So it's not that you can't do it. It's just that if I don't set the standard and the expectation, you won't do it. And that's the thing. Kids will take the lesser, they will take the road of least resistance over anything else. So if you do not set the standard and expectation, they'll go and do whatever they want to do. They will do okay. So if I don't do it, it's not a problem, right? So if I go and I just do this, he's not going to say anything. No, this is the standard. This is what I expect you to do. Do it. That's it. I'm asking you to do your job. And people have to fail at it in order to understand, that it's unacceptable and there's a standard to be set. And if you are not meeting that standard, you either get with it or you get lost. And the question I have is what kind of culture do you want your child to be raised in? And so the people who would ask the question like, hey, or would argue to have their child play just because they paid, what type of environment What type of culture are you developing in your child with that mindset, right? What type of, like, what are you teaching them by doing that? Yeah, my mom paid the money, so, I get to play. Now, my mom said I got to play. My mama said, what type of environment, especially, I'm the same. I have a girls team. I coach a girls team, and I have a boys team. And I have the same expectations and the same standards. What's interesting to me sometimes, too, is that people will have a double standard or a different standard for the ladies. And a lot of times, it's ladies, right? Oh, that's a little bit too advanced for them. Oh, yeah, I don't think they... No, they can do it. If we set the expectation, if we set the standard, they will rise to the standard and they will rise to those expectations. Girl, boy, man, woman, child, I don't care who it is. They will rise to the expectations that you set. And so I really want to know, what do you think that type of environment leads to? The one that I'm proposing with standards and expectations, or the one without expectations and standards? What do those lead to? Do you think that no expectations or standards leads to higher performance or children meeting like the standard? Or do you think having a standard and expectation allows people to meet the standard and expectation and pushes everyone forward? And so this brings me to the All-Star game, All-Star weekend. It's kind of what I really wanted to talk about today is the state of the NBA and the new changes to the All-Star game. So this year they decided to do a tournament style All-Star game, and they had 4 teams selected, and 4 teams were playing in the All-Star game. And it was, honestly, it was boring for me. It was not entertaining at all. It honestly made it worse because before we had just one game of people just not playing basketball for real, just playing around, just hooping. Now we have 4 games. Was it 4 games? No, we had, something like that. We had like 4 games of that. And I think now we had just more of the bad stuff, more of the bad stuff. It was a cool concept and everything, but there's one thing missing, and it's the culture, the expectation, and the standard. And I think this is across the board. We talk about LeBron not doing the dunk contest. He doesn't have to do it. I get it. He doesn't have to do it. There's other players who didn't do it and not doing it. That's cool. I think that the reason why he's not doing it, some people say it's because he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. It's a lose-lose situation for him. If he doesn't win, they'll talk about him. If he does win, they'll talk about him. Whatever. LeBron has always been super protective of the narrative surrounding him. I think we all know that. But I feel like there's an issue in the NBA of having the standard and in the culture and the expectation, because people pay a lot of money to come see these players play, and they are not meeting the expectation. They are not meeting the standard. They're raking in millions, and they're not meeting that expectation or standard. And there's a reason for it, because there's no culture there anymore. The culture is just, hey, do what you got to do to keep your body in shape. Come out here, put on a show, throw the ball up a few times, whatever. Derrick Rose used to play for something, and it was just hard. Kobe, LeBron, they used to play for something. There was a standard there. And if you didn't meet that standard, you get with it or get lost. And the problem is that we don't have that standard expectation anymore. And this has led to a disruption in the NBA. I'm going to play this clip real quick. It's a fairly long clip, but I'm going to play this clip because it kind of embodies what I'm trying to say.
Hockey's a different sport from the NBA. You can't compare the cultures because of the way the game is played. You can step on an NBA floor and go through the emotions. You can't do that in hockey. You can't. Like the culture of our sport, you have to play it with passion. You have to be willing to fight. You have to be willing to leave it on the ice. That's what fans are investing in. So for us, when we charge $1,500 for a ticket to come to Four, fans know what they're getting. Cale Makar, the best defenseman in the world, wasn't in the lineup for this game. This was the most viewed game that we've had in years. And you see it, it's not just based on the skill and talent. It's based on the pride, honor, playing for the guy next to you. I got a question for the NBA players. What the hell are you playing for? What are you playing for? It's not about the money. You make all the money. What, you're injured? Well, there's a difference between being hurt and injured. Are you hurt or are you injured? There's a difference. In hockey, we play hurt. We play injured. That is the culture of the sport. It's always been that way. So you want to talk about the business, the CBA, fans get all of that. But what do fans resonate with? They resonate with what's real. You got to fight sometimes for your country. You got to compete. You got to go out there and leave it on the ice because those people are paying the price of admission. So fans know whether our stars are on the ice or not, they're getting their money's worth. The NBA has that issue that they got to work on. You got to create a better culture for your players. It starts with the leaders. This issue, there was no issue when Jordan was around. There was no issue when Kobe was around. There's no issue when Sidney Crosby's around. There's no issue when Wayne Gretzky was around because those are true leaders. They lead by example. Sidney Crosby, Hockey Canada, those players, both Canada and U.S., it was the players that did that for the Four Nations. It's not the league. The league set it up, but the players went out there and decided and said, you know what, boys? We're all in. When is the NBA going to do that? Because, you know, I haven't sat down and watched the NBA consistently since Kobe. I love basketball. Love the players. I think LeBron's great. I think KD's great. Steph Curry. Love watching them. But you got to be on the court. You got to be there, and when you're there, you got to go all in. The fans got to feel that they're getting their money's worth. And right now, there's a big difference between what the NHL's doing with those events and what the NBA's doing. Four Nations works because the players are all in.
I mean, that's exactly it, right? And so if you're not playing for, like you said, the guy next to you, what are you playing for? If there's not a standard and an expectation and a purpose behind why we're playing, what are we playing for? And what the NBA is experiencing is the lack of culture. And I also see this in youth play as well. When a team lacks culture, they may do well in the regular season. They may do well. They may go undefeated. They may look like, oh, they haven't lost a game. They look good on paper, but there's no culture there. The coach is not developing a culture within the kids and setting an expectation and a standard. And not only setting the expectation, but living by the expectation and standard. And then holding the kids accountable for the expectation and standard. So you end up having kids playing in the playoffs, in the championship. They play well through the regular season because all the cards weren't on the table. It wasn't, it was a regular season game. But when it really matters, when you start to get into the playoffs and you start to your true nature and culture comes out, and that's where we see who is really who was willing to dive on the ground for the ball, who was willing to hustle and get back on defense. And when you set those type of expectations and standards throughout the season, regardless of who the player is, regardless of how many points you're winning or losing by, when that is the standard and expectation, the team will go far. And the same thing goes to the NBA. The same thing goes to all of these sports leagues. The same thing goes to youth sports. If there is no culture, if there is no standard, if there is no expectation, you will not go far in the sport. You will not go far in life. If there is no expectation, standard, if there is no culture, if these kids don't fail early and fail often, they will not go far. Not only in sports, they won't go far in life. And that's the problem. We have to shift. We have to shift things. We have to communicate. We have to set the expectation. We have to set the standard. When he's talking about like the fans knowing what they're getting, there's an expectation when they pay for the ticket. There's an expectation that the people who are going to be on the ice are going to give it all they got. And that leads to satisfaction. That leads to victory. That leads to a thriving culture. When you don't have that expectation, or when you don't have that standard, the complete opposite happens. The NBA will not post who's playing in the game. They won't tell you that LeBron's not playing tonight, even though you bought your ticket. They might tell you like right before. But they'll hold that information back because they still want you to buy the ticket regardless of whether LeBron is there or not. LeBron has to be there. If he's playing, he has to be there. If he's on the team, he has to be there. And not just for like yourself. You need to be there for the fans, for the environment, for the culture, for the guys next to you. Like you were saying. What happens is you have the expectation when you buy a Lakers ticket to see LeBron. You get there, LeBron's not playing. That leads to disappointment. And like I said, effective communication can solve a lot of this. And so my final thoughts is just that we have to learn to create that standard expectation. And I want to encourage you to set that standard, set that expectation in your own home. Prepare your kids for the tests that they will have. Prepare the kids for the tryouts that they will eventually see. Prepare your kids for the failure that they will eventually meet so that they know how to handle it, so that they develop grit, so they develop a want-to attitude, so that they develop confidence in themselves that if they can overcome things that may come their way. I think it's important for us to build that within our kids, within our households, within ourselves too. Lead by example. If they see you not doing what you're supposed to be doing, they're not going to do it either. My wife and I were just talking about just people just living a healthy lifestyle, making sure that you're eating right and that you're taking care of yourself, taking care of your body. And just recently, my son asked if he could meal prep, if he could create some meals for himself so he can, have some healthy meals around the house. And he's seen that in me. He's seen it in his mom. And so he's been experiencing that. And we've set the environment and the expectation of that. And so it's reflecting in them. Right? Oh, I see my dad eating healthy. I see my mom eating healthy. I'm going to eat healthy too. I'm going to take care of my body too. And it's important that we build that culture at home and not just expect coaches, volunteers to build that culture elsewhere. Right? The problem is that it's not happening in both places a lot of times. It needs to happen at home and it needs to happen in the community. Let me know your thoughts below. Maybe you disagree with me. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.